Welcome everyone to Every Territorial Anomaly in Europe Explained. Europe, as you might not have expected, actually has a lot of disputes, especially when you include Georgia, Armenia and Azerbaijan, whose disputes are anything but straightforward. I included those three countries in the Europe video to take some load of the Asia video, as there'll be much to talk about even without them. Both videos will probably offend some people, but so is the nature of border disputes, so not much I can do. Both will also include partially recognized countries. You're of course free to state your opinion in the comments below as long as you do it in a civil manner. Also, if you want to know where I got a piece of information from, every source is linked in the description. With that being said, let's dive in. Abkhazia and South Ossetia are breakaway regions of Georgia. In 2008, Russia went to war with Georgia for 5 days. At the start, Georgia occupied the South Ossetian regional capital of Tsikhin Valley, but soon enough, Georgia was driven out of both regions and a peace treaty was signed. In 2008, something else also happened that Russia didn't particularly like. That is Kosovo declaring its independence from Serbia and about half of all countries recognizing it. I'll talk about Kosovo later, but since Kosovo could semi-successfully declare independence without the approval of Serbia, to the breakaway regions meant that they could try without the approval of Georgia, and so they did, with Russian support. Also, during Soviet times, they weren't part of the Georgian SSR, rather they were their separate autonomous SSRs. To this day, the only countries who recognize Abkhazia and South Ossetia are Russia, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Nauru and Syria. Artsvashen or Bashkent, Karki or Tigranashen or villages, Yukhari Aksipara isn't a village anymore because it was destroyed, and Barkhudarly and Sofulu are abandoned villages disputed between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Artsvashen was captured by Azerbaijan in the First Nagorno-Karabakh War and was renamed to Bashkent. The leader of Armenia at the time, Levon Ter-Petrosyan, sent a telegram to the leaders of the Commonwealth of Independent States, or CIS, or Russia's attempt of keeping the former Soviet countries close, stating that Azerbaijan was illegally occupying Artsvashen in an undeclared war. Today it's still occupied by Azerbaijan, and the Armenian people have been displaced along with the church converted to a mosque and so on. Every other location I mentioned was also captured by either side during the First Nagorno-Karabakh War. The difference is that while Artsvashen was under control of Azerbaijan and being a de jure Armenian enclave, these are the opposite. The other four places are under de facto Armenian occupation and are enclaves of Azerbaijan. Crimea is an oblast of Ukraine which has been occupied and annexed by Russia since 2014. And now a brief history of the ownership and status of Crimea, because it's important. By late 1920, Crimea was under control of the Bolsheviks and became an oblast or province. If you look at a map, you can see that there is a land connection from Crimea to Ukraine but not Russia. The reason why it still became a part of Russia was more strategic in nature, as the city of Sevastopol was seen as a strategically important naval base. A year later, Crimea gained autonomous status in an effort to promote socialism. After World War II and the deportation of Tatars under Stalin, its autonomous republic status was revoked and it became a part of Russia proper again. On the 24th of January 1954, Crimea was handed over from the Russian SFSR to the Ukrainian SSR, and almost a month later it was officialized by both the Russian as well as the Ukrainian Presidium of the Supreme Soviet. The reason for the handover is debated from a gift to an economic burden, among others. Fast forward to 2014. 4 days after the Revolution of Dignity, which ousted pro-Russian Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych, Russian forces seized buildings in Crimea and held a snap referendum overseen by them, which was 95% in support of getting annexed by Russia. In response, Russia was kicked from the G8, which is now the G7, the EU and US sanctioned individuals close to Putin, and NATO suspended cooperation with Russia. Internationally, the referendum was and is seen as rigged and illegitimate, and Crimea is seen as a part of Ukraine, because, it is. Over 50% of people voted for independence in 1991, by which time Crimea had been a part of Ukraine for 37 years. Since the 27th of February 2014, Russia has been occupying the peninsula. Russia and Ukraine both divided into two parts. In the eyes of Russia, there is the Republic of Crimea and the federal city of Sevastopol, whereas in Ukraine's view, there's the Autonomous Republic of Crimea and the special city of Sevastopol. Also, I recommend you watch Vice News' video talking to people who supported joining Russia on the day of the referendum. It's very interesting, link in the description. The David Gareja monastery complex is a monastery on the undemarcated border of Georgia and Azerbaijan. Both countries have formed committees to demarcate the border, and they have met 11 times, but so far the border hasn't been demarcated. Aside from this, I didn't find anything else. Donetsk, Kherson, Luhansk and Zaporizhzhia are oblasts, Kinburn Peninsula is a peninsula, and Snihurivka is a village in Ukraine currently occupied and annexed by Russia. On the 21st of February 2022, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced the recognition of the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics. As we all know, on the 24th of February 2022, Russia started, or if you consider Crimea to be the start, then continued, the invasion of Ukraine that they called a special military operation. On the 30th of September 2022, Russia announced the annexation of Donetsk, Kherson, Luhansk and Zaporizhzhia oblasts, along with the aforementioned republics, and the Kinburn Peninsula and Snihurivka, which are in the Mykolaiv Oblast. 19 days later, Russia introduced martial law in the occupied areas, or to put it simply, about half of what Russia had controlled at the time. Russia didn't and hasn't controlled any of the oblasts in their entirety. Ukrainian counteroffensives have helped to regain some lost land, notably Kherson city. With the annexation, the People's Republics have dropped seeking independence and consider themselves to be a part of Russia. The Dragonja is a river which is the border between Croatia and Slovenia, at least if you ask Croatia. If you ask Slovenia, they have a small strip of land as well, and that's about all the information I could find on this. The Drina is a river which is the border between Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina. Pretty much the only thing I found on this topic is that Serbia benefits from some hydraulic dams in the area. Gibraltar is a territory of the United Kingdom that Spain keeps on wanting back 300 years later. Gibraltar used to be a Spanish territory, however it was captured by British forces in 1704 during the War of the Spanish Succession and was ceded to the UK in the Treaty of Utrecht. Since then, Spain has tried 3 times to get it back. During World War II, Hitler offered Francisco Franco that in exchange of joining the Axis, Spain can have Gibraltar back in the event of Axis victory, but Franco declined. In 1967, there was a referendum held in which 99.6% of Gibraltarians voted in favor of remaining a British territory. And in 2002, there was another referendum, this time for the share of Gibraltar between the two countries. That was also unsuccessful, as 99% voted against the proposal. Imia or Kardak are uninhabited islets disputed between Greece, who calls it Imia, and Turkey, who calls it Kardak. In 1996, there was a military crisis over the islets in which 3 Greek officers were killed. Tensions were reignited in 2016 and 2017 when the Greek defense minister Panos Kamenos threw a wreath in the sea next to the islets in memory of the officers killed in 1996, and when Greece refused to extradite the participants of the 2016 Turkish coup attempt respectively. In 2018, a Turkish Coast Guard boat rammed a Greek Coast Guard boat, which increased tensions. Both sides argue with maps, and there are Turkish maps that show Imia as Greek, but these are so mixed that no safe conclusion can be drawn about who the islets belong to. K Island is one of those things that I couldn't find anything on. This time I have literally nothing. Its other name is Nova Zemlya, but that just leads to a Soviet nuclear testing site that has a similar name. Kosovo is a country independent from Serbia if you ask these countries, or a rebellious part of Serbia if you ask the rest. Kosovo declared independence from Serbia in 2008 and is de facto independent, kinda like how Taiwan/the Republic of China is technically a part of the People's Republic of China, but it de facto isn't. Serbia and Kosovo went to the ICJ, which ruled that Kosovo declaring its independence isn't illegal. Also, both countries have started to improve their relation by recognizing each other's passports and license plates. There is a UN mission to Kosovo, which was partially the reason for Serbia not just invading them after independence. Sveta Gera is a mountain on top of which there is a telecommunications tower and a military barracks, which is deemed as strategically important to Croatia and is disputed with Slovenia. The two countries took the matter to the Permanent Court of Arbitration, which decided that it was indeed in Croatia, but it has no power to order Slovenian soldiers to withdraw. Mont Blanc is a mountain on the border of France and Italy, and it's not agreed upon where the border exactly is. I wasn't able to find much about this topic, just that the border is disputed due to tourism reasons for the most part. The region of Savoy swapped ownership a couple of times in the 18th and 19th centuries, but today, even with this dispute, people are free to cross the border because both countries are members of the Schengen zone. Nagorno-Karabakh, sometimes called Artsakh, is a region in, that's incredibly controversial, but let's just say Azerbaijan, with an ethnic Armenian majority, again heavily disputed with Armenia. The two have fought numerous wars and failed to sign more peace agreements, so to put it shortly, in 2023 Azerbaijan launched the latest full-scale offensive and came out victorious. The Artsakh forces rapidly collapsed and it announced the dissolution of itself by the end of 2023. The Azerbaijani victory also caused the exodus of pretty much the entire Armenian population from the area. The guy who signed the dissolution of Artsakh, Samvel Shahramanian, said in an interview that it was illegal from the start, since not even the president has the power to dissolve Artsakh, and that everything will continue as it was, but on a civilian basis, as in government officials won't get paid. This is very complicated, but I'll try to explain it. So, North Cyprus is a partially recognized country, and by that I mean only Turkey recognizes it, and its official name is the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. Cyprus, and literally everyone else, considers it to be Cypriot territory under Turkish occupation. Kokina, or Erenköy if you wanna call it the Turkish name, is this little part of Northern Cyprus. In 1974 there was a coup against President Makarios III because he didn't want to unite with Greece, which also recently had a coup. He did want to unite with Greece, but since Greece had a coup by the military, he didn't want to unite with them. Turkey promptly invaded, citing Article 4 of the Treaty of Guarantee, which states, "Each of the three guaranteeing powers reserve the right to take action with the sole aim of re-establishing the state of affairs created by the present treaty." The operation lasted 2 days and Turkey had captured 3% of Cyprus's land when an emergency UN Security Council meeting was called calling for a ceasefire. Both military dictatorships collapsed after Turkey's invasion. They held peace talks, but they were unsuccessful, so Turkey launched Operation Attila II and captured about 1/3 of the island. The invasion ended in the partition of Cyprus, with the UN buffer zone dividing the two parts to this day. In 1983, the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus declared independence, although Turkey is the sole nation to recognize it. Not so fun facts. 1. Cyprus's Nicosia is the world's less divided capital, and 2. Cyprus is divided not in 2, but 4. There's the Republic of Cyprus, which is in the EU, by the way, the Turkish Republic, the UN buffer zone, and Akrotiri and Dhekelia, which are British sovereign military bases. Olivença is a town and Villarreal is a village in Spain, but they are claimed by Portugal. Portugal cites Article 105 of the 1815 Congress of Vienna, and it claims Portugal was forced to sign the Treaty of Badajoz, which gave Olivença to Spain. Therefore, it is void since Portugal had no free will. Spain says Article 105 wasn't compulsory and it rejects Portugal's self-cancellation of the Treaty of Badajoz. Prevlaka is a peninsula disputed between Croatia and Montenegro. During the breakup of Yugoslavia, the peninsula became disputed. A temporary solution was agreed upon where Croatia gets the peninsula, but the sea bay facing Herceg Novi was declared no man's waters. In 2008, with a now independent Montenegro, the two countries agreed to take the matter to the International Court of Justice. Rockall is an uninhabitable islet that itself isn't disputed, but its exclusive economic zone or EEZ is disputed between the United Kingdom, Ireland, Iceland and the Faroe Islands, which is an autonomous country of Denmark. In 1955, the UK annexed Rockall, which, fun fact, is the last expansion of the British Empire. They classified it as an island, which under the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, would mean that their EEZ would be this, of course with respect to the neighboring EEZs. The UK later reclassified Rockall to a rock, thus voluntarily reducing their EEZ to this. Šarengrad, Vukovar and others are places next to the river Danube, which is the border between Serbia and Croatia. When both countries were part of the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, the dispute was put on hold because both were part of the same country. However, since this border was agreed upon, the river changed quite considerably. Croatia believes the border is at the same place it's ever been, and Serbia says that when both countries became independent from Yugoslavia, the border should have been redrawn to the current position of the river. This yields a lot of small patches of land claimed by one but controlled by the other. There is the case of this piece of land which Croatia de facto controls but neither side claims, therefore it's terra nullius, or basically unclaimed territory. In 2015, a Czech guy by the name of Vít Jedlička founded the Free Republic of Liberland there, similar to what happened to Birtaville in the Africa episode. Strovilia is a village at the border of Dhekelia and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. In 2000, Greek Cypriot media claimed the Turkish military advanced into the no man's land, and of course Turkish Cypriot media claimed they didn't advance, rather they established a control point. In 2019, Greek Cypriots claimed the Turkish military took control of 3 more houses in the Republic of Cyprus, but it was revealed that this was the British setting up barricades. And finally, Transnistria, or officially the Pridnestrovian Moldavian Republic, is a breakaway region of Moldova with very limited recognition. The place is pretty much the continuation of the Soviet Union because they are still as communist as ever. Internationally, it is recognized to be a part of Moldova and to be under Russian military occupation. So, what have we learned today? That Europe is more full of territorial disputes than you and I might have thought, and they are also more complex. Most of them aren't caused by old-ass treaties being misinterpreted at least, so that's something. Stay tuned until next episode, which is gonna be a long one, because I'm going to attempt to explain the territorial disputes in Asia. And with that, thank you guys for watching, comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.